Hello and welcome to the Aussie Football Passport, your one-stop pod for updates on your favourite Aussie men and women who are playing their club careers abroad. I'm your host Alex, and it's a bit of a mixed bag this week in terms of the news that I'm going to bring you. I'll update you on our under-23 men's Asian Cup campaign, an unfortunate pair of injuries for a couple of Socceroos midfielders, plus a few more goals, assists, clean sheets and everything in between, including a few more transfers as players chase game time coming into major tournaments, specifically the Women's Asian Cup in March and the Men's World Cup in June. Let's wait no further and get straight into the headlines. All right, let's start the headlines with some transfer news. Kaitlyn Torpey has joined Newcastle United in the WSL2 or the second division in England's women's competition, linking up with newly appointed Aussie coach Tanya Oxtoby. She joins from former side Portland Thorns, where she'll leave behind Aussie teammate Mackenzie Arnold after 2 years with them in the USA. Now, moving to a player that has moved back home, it's Nicholas D'Agostino, who's joined the Brisbane Roar on loan for the rest of the A-League season from his Norwegian side Viking. This is largely due to the Norwegian season not resuming until March, and D'Agostino is keen to push his claim for a spot at the World Cup in June, particularly when we consider that the striking positions are quite open in that Socceroos squad. Now, another Socceroos hopeful that is moving home, it's Ryan Teague, who has joined Melbourne City on loan for the rest of the season from his Belgian side KV Mechelen. This is another move designed to get Teague in front of Popovic and push his place for a spot in that Socceroos midfield, which he may well be presented with after a couple of big injuries that have happened in the last week, but more on that later. Now let's head to the rumour mill, where Melbourne City are rumoured to be looking to secure two Aussies who are currently playing abroad, who have been getting limited game time at their current clubs. They are Daniel Arzani and Marcus Yunus. Both moves would be loans, most likely for the rest of the season, and this in particular would be good for Arzani, who has had very limited game time since he joined Ferencváros in Hungary. Of course, there was some issues, or a rule change, I should say, in regards to how many foreign players could play in the starting 11 for a club in Hungary. So that changed after he joined the club, and that is why he's not getting as many minutes, along with probably injuries and other foreigners getting picked above him. Now, another striker that is looking to make a move, it is Kusuni Yengi, who is believed to be on his way to Japan, and Cerezo Osaka in particular, with his agent in Japan to negotiate the deal with the club last week, according to the rumour mill. Cerezo's coach is none other than Arthur Pappas, an Australian coach, so he will know Kusuni well from his time coaching in the A-League. The deal is believed to be a loan move as Yengi seeks game time in an attempt to win his Socceroos spot back. And it is straight out of the same playbook as Nicholas D'Agostino. So all the best to both of those strikers. Now, let's go to some other headlines. And last week, you'll remember that we talked about potential opponents for the Socceroos in the March international window, which is part of that FIFA series. We talked about China and Curaçao, which have both been confirmed, but we have another country joining us in the form of Cameroon. So Australia will only play two of the three nations, with exact dates, times and locations still to be confirmed. However, Vince Regari is reporting for the Sydney Morning Herald that the Socceroos games will be held in Sydney and Melbourne. So we will update you once we have dates, times and locations in the next episode. Now, let's talk about our Joeys, the under-17 side, who began their Pacific Island tour with a 2-0 win over Fiji's under-19 side. Goals in each half from Max Court and Joey Sikora were enough for victory for our lads. Coach Carl Veer was happy with how the team handled themselves against older opposition, difficult conditions and with new faces in the squad. The lads will now travel to the Solomon Islands for 2 games against the host nation's under-19 side. We will bring you those results of those games in the next episode. Now, going to the under-23 Asian Cup, which is currently taking place in Saudi Arabia, and the Olyroos had 2 more games. They progressed to the knockout stage with a come-from-behind dramatic 2-1 victory over Iraq. Tony Vidmar made 3 changes to the side that lost to China. Giuseppe Bovalina, Luka Jovanovic, and Jalen Pearman came into the starting 11, replacing Aidan Hammond, Matthias McAllister, and Nathaniel Blair. The lads went into added time behind Iraq 1-0, but managed to turn it around within the space of 4 minutes. Wow. The first goal came via a Yaya Dukuli header at the back post with a wonderful cross delivered by Josh Rawlins. That's important because in the post-match interviews, Dukuli said that him and Rawlins discussed the type of delivery that could potentially put a goal on for their side. Some crystal ball stuff right there. Yaya was then involved in the winning goal as well. He found Nathaniel Blair, who then produced some neat interplay with Luka Jovanovic before Matthias McAllister finished off the move with a crisp finish. The lads lined up a quarterfinal showdown with South Korea. Unfortunately, the quarterfinal showdown ended with an 88th minute winner for South Korea as they progressed with what some are calling, particularly with green and gold glasses on, a controversial 2-1 victory. Tony Vidmar made 4 changes to his starting side with Aidan Simmons, Jed Drew, Lewis Agosti, and Matthias McAllister coming into the starting 11. The Korean Republic opened the scoring via a brilliant long pass over the top from Lee Hyun-yong, which found Baek Gae-on, whose first-time volley rippled the net. 7 minutes before halftime, our lads thought they had a chance to equalise from the penalty spot when a handball was spotted by the on-field referee. But a VAR intervention, which is the theme of this game, showed that a ricochet off the defender's own body preceded the handball, and so the spot kick was overturned. Wow. Yeah, interesting stuff. 5 minutes after the break saw our lads level the game. Jed Drew went on a marauding run before playing a perfectly timed through ball for Luka Jovanovic, who took the ball wide to a seemingly tight angle before surprising everyone and slotting the ball home. In the 88th minute, as mentioned earlier, Australia's hearts were broken with Shin Min Ha rising highest at a corner to head home that winner. Overall, it was a good showing from our lads, despite Tony Vidmar being hamstrung without being able to name his strongest side possible, given the reluctance of most European clubs and even some A-League clubs to release some of the players to make it the strongest side possible. This is, of course, because the tournament fell outside a designated FIFA international window, and therefore clubs do not have to give up their players if they do not wish to. However, what is certain, there are some quality young players in this generation who will no doubt progress to the senior side, and we can't wait to follow them and bring their progress to you on this very podcast. Now, speaking of national teams, Mile Jedinak has joined Tony Popovic's Socceroos coaching staff as his third assistant coach, alongside a pair of former Socceroos in the form of Hayden Fox and Paul Ocon Sr. Of course, have to point out Paul Ocon Sr., considering his son Paul Ocon Jr. has now debuted for the Socceroos as well. Back to Jedinak, his last stint as an assistant was under Ange Postecoglou at Nottingham Forest, and before that at Tottenham Hotspur. The 79 cap former Socceroo and former captain will add another layer of experience to the coaching staff, having played at 3 World Cups and captaining the side at 2. Mile was quoted as saying, "I was always proud to wear the Socceroos shirt and especially proud to captain my national team. Now I look forward to playing a part and representing my country in a different capacity." Now to my least favourite segment within a segment on this podcast. It's the injury news. Manchester City's coach Ondrej Jeglerts has provided an update on Mary Fowler's fitness, stating she's on her way. She's been with us for a couple of sessions now, a little modified, but she's training well with the team. This is hopefully good news for her as she aims to make Matilda's Asian Cup squad in March. St. Pauli have confirmed that Socceroos vice-captain Jackson Irvine will be out until further notice, as he was not in last week's side as the Bundesliga resumed after its winter break. It is a recurrence of the left foot injury that Jackson got towards the end of last season, which is even more of a concern. His club coach, Alexander Blesson, has stated that the extent of the injury will become clear over the next week to 10 days as MRI scans and discussions with surgeons are being done currently. We will bring you news of that once it is confirmed. Cameron Devlin could be out for up to 8 weeks with a lower leg injury. The midfielder picked up the injury late on in Hearts' win over St Mirren and was substituted off in stoppage time. It is hoped that he will be back in March, but will that be before or after the international window? We're not quite sure at this stage, and we will keep you updated. Obviously, a cruel blow to Devlin, who was looking like a great option for Tony Popovic in the midfield for that Socceroos squad. Jacob Italiano has not returned to training with his side Grazer AK in Austria after suffering that calf injury in October. Coach Ferdinand Feldhofer confirmed this in a recent interview. There are also reports in Austria that the club will look to bring in a replacement in the current transfer window, which suggests that they don't expect Italiano to be back anytime soon, which is a blow for Jacob because he looked fantastic in his 2 caps for the Socceroos so far. Middlesbrough manager Kim Hellberg says there is light at the end of the tunnel in relation to Riley McGree's injury. He is aiming to return by the end of the month, so keep everything crossed because Riley was in outstanding form prior to this injury. And just when you thought the Socceroos midfield depth couldn't be tested any further, Keanu Bacchus suffered a hamstring injury back in December. Is set to keep him out for up to 3 months, with manager Stephen Robinson saying he will be missing for at least 10 weeks. So not great news for Keanu, and he was a key part of St Mirren's League Cup win against Celtic late last year. Denny Juric has not played a competitive match for his side Wisła Płock in Poland in the 2 months since picking up an injury that led to him departing Socceroos camp in November last year. However, in some good news, he did play in the second half in a 1-0 friendly loss to Bohemians Prague. Now, Lewis Miller has missed Blackburn's 3-0 loss to Ipswich Town in the Championship at the weekend, with coach Valérien Ismail revealing he has picked up an injury. He was quoted as saying Lewis will take a couple of weeks after the cup game, as he was complaining about his groin. So not ideal for Lewis either there. And just to add to that midfield misery for the Socceroos, Connor Metcalf has also missed St. Pauli's last 2 matches after picking up a knock. However, it does not sound too serious. Coach Alexander Blesson was quoted as saying, "That's obviously a bitter pill to swallow, especially since we had the opportunity to replace Jacko like for like. Above all, I also think Connor deserved to start in that position. It is hoped that he will be back for St. Pauli's next game in the Bundesliga at the weekend. But of course, we will bring that to you in the next episode." All right, that is it for the headlines. Let's move on to the weekly wrap in just a second. All right, weekly wrap time. And let's start with our ladies in England who were taking part in the FA Cup. Claire Wheeler was on the bench for Everton. However, it didn't last too long as she was substituted into the match in the 4th minute due to an injury to her teammate. She then helped her side, the Toffees, go on to beat their opponents West Bromwich Albion 5-0. Alana Kennedy started and played the full game for London City Lionesses in their 1-0 win over Sunderland. Interestingly, she played at centre-back in that game, not in midfield, as she has done recently. Chelsea beat Crystal Palace 5-0 with Ellie Carpenter coming on as a substitute in the 61st minute. Tottenham defeated Leicester City 3-0 in a battle of the Aussies. Claire Hunt started and played the full game for Tottenham, helping them keep a clean sheet. Charlotte Grant remains sidelined with her knee injury for Tottenham, whilst Emily Van Egmond came on at halftime for Leicester City, but was unable to help her side turn it around. Charlize Rule started and played 86 minutes as part of a back three for Brighton and Hove Albion in their 2-0 win over Nottingham Forest. It was a massive win for the Seagulls, with news breaking before the game that their Australian coach, Dario Vidicic, has taken a leave due to a family matter, and he's not anticipated to return in the near future. Our thoughts are with the Vidicic family. Steph Catley started and played the full game in Arsenal's 2-0 win over Aston Villa. Her teammate Caitlin Ford came on in the 71st minute. Kyra Cooney-Cross is away on personal leave. Now to France, where Tegan Micah started and played the full game for Lyon in their 1-0 win over Lens. That clean sheet extended her record to 5 matches for Lyon without conceding a single goal. Impressive stuff. However, it would be nice if Tegan won the starting spot a little more often, but it's difficult when you've got a world-class goalkeeper ahead of you. Kaya Simon was a late substitute for Dijon in their 1-1 draw with Montpellier. She came on in additional time, but was unable to snatch a late winner for her side. Ending out our ladies abroad, we head to Italy, where Alex Shudiak started and played a full game in midfield for Como as they played out a 0-0 draw with Napoli. There was an Aussie derby in Italy with Roma taking on Sassuolo. Winona Heatley's Roma took the 3 points with a 2-1 victory. However, Heatley was an unused substitute. Both our Aussies for Sassuolo started, with Jessica Nash playing the whole game and Jacinta Galabadaracci playing 84 minutes for Sassuolo. Now to our men abroad, and let's start in England and Wales in the Championship, where Adrian Segacic started, played the full game and scored the winner for Portsmouth as they edged out Sheffield Wednesday 1-0. It's his 4th goal of the season. Jacob Farrell was on the bench yet again for Portsmouth in good signs for the youngster who has struggled with injuries since his move to Portsmouth. Callum Elder played all of Derby's 1-0 win against Preston North End. A great effort from the defender, helping his side keep yet another clean sheet. Cameron Burgess played a full game for Swansea City in a 1-1 draw with Birmingham City. Destry Irankunde came on in the 66th minute for Watford in a 2-0 loss to Millwall. Our Queen's Park Rangers, or QPR lads, made appearances off the bench as their side drew 0-0 with Stoke. Daniel Benny played 20 minutes, whilst Keely Adamson played 4 minutes. Now, dropping down a division to League One, where Alex Robertson played 78 minutes for Cardiff City in their midfield as they went on to beat Bradford City 2-1. Cardiff are now 6 points clear at the top of League One. Rafael Borges Rodriguez started and played a full game for Wigan Athletic in their 1-0 defeat to the Bolton Wanderers. Tyrese Francois was a late substitute, coming on in the 87th minute for Wigan. Now to Scotland, where it was Scottish Cup time for our Aussies abroad last weekend. Martin Boyle came on in the 75th minute of Hibernian's 1-0 loss to Dunfermline Athletic. Jack Idale was on the bench. Ryan Strain was subbed on in the 73rd minute of Dundee United's 2-0 win against Ayr United. He had an instant impact, providing the assist for the goal that broke the deadlock. Zach Sapsford started and was substituted off at half-time for Dundee United in that one. Motherwell managed a 1-0 victory over second division side Ross County. All three of our Aussies started, with Johnny Katrumbis and Oscar Priestman playing the full game and Apostolos Stamatolopoulos being substituted off in the 56th minute for Kiwi Elijah Just. Ryan McGowan played all of Livingston's penalty shootout defeat to St Mirren. Tetiangi was substituted on in the 83rd minute of regular time as the game ended 1-1. The penalty shootout was lost 5-4 in St Mirren's favour. As we learned earlier, Keanu Bacchus is out injured for St Mirren and took no part in that one. Nicholas Milanovic played 68 minutes for Aberdeen in their 2-0 loss to Rangers, rounding out the action in Scotland. Now let's head to Italy, where Alessandro Ciccardi had a very busy and impressive week, playing a full game as captain for his side Parma, helping them keep a clean sheet against title-chasing Napoli. That's very impressive considering the firepower that Napoli side has, let me tell you. He then helped Parma to another clean sheet as they drew, yes, you guessed it, 0-0, but this time with Genoa. Ciccardi completed a match-high 60 of his 67 passes, had 10 defensive contributions. No one on the pitch had more than his 82 touches in a very impressive performance. Now to Germany, and I'm going to break the rules here a little bit because it's not strictly a start, but Dylan Leonard was finally allowed to take a place on the bench for Schalke in their 0-0 draw with Hertha Berlin in the German second division. And Dylan is one to keep an eye on, an impressive young defender who was at Western United last season, but of course left the club as it is in hibernation until next season here in the A-League. But Dylan is starting his journey early in Europe, and we cannot wait to see where his career takes him because he is a very talented young defender. Now to Spain, where Matt Ryan played a full game in goal for Levante as they lost 2-0 to Real Madrid. Whilst Matty could do nothing about Kylian Mbappe's penalty, he did keep the score respectable by making 9 saves in that one, and it's fair to say he faced a firing squad. Alamabil scored the first goal for Castellon in a 2-0 win against Leganés. He started and played 68 minutes in that one. Castellon sit third in La Liga 2 and are in the hunt for promotion to the top flight in Spain. And we look forward to seeing if Castellon can make it, because they play some wonderful football and are well worth checking out if you get a chance to. Now, rounding out the men's action in the Netherlands, well, it was a very, very eventful week for Adjin Hrustic, who started off by scoring a spectacular free kick for his side Heracles Almelo as they went out on penalties to Go Ahead Eagles in the Dutch Cup. And can I just say, that is such a fantastic name, the Go Ahead Eagles. They might have a new fan in me. Anyway, he put Heracles into the lead in the 62nd minute with that free kick, but the scores ended up being locked up at 2-2 at full time. Hrustic was one of 4 players to miss from the spot in the shootout for his side in that one. Now we go to the weekend's action in the Dutch League, where Hrustic was involved in 2 major flashpoints of his side's 2-0 loss to FC Twente. Hrustic's blatant tugging on the shirt of Twente's Ramiz Zarouki prompted him to lash out at the Australian and earn himself a red card, which led to major protests from Twente's players, who felt Hrustic should have been punished earlier with a yellow card himself. Hrustic then thought he had earned his side a penalty after seemingly being fouled in the box, only for, yes, you guessed it, VAR to intervene and overturn the decision. Wow, catch your breath after that one, folks, and we'll update you now on 2 other Australians in the Netherlands in the form of Jordy Boss, who played all of Feyenoord's 4-3 loss to Sparta Rotterdam in the local derby. Feyenoord are now 16 points behind PSV in the Dutch League. Max Ballard played all of NAC Breda's 4-3 loss, well, there's another pattern there, to NEC Nijmegen. All right, and that is it for the weekly wrap. Next up is Players of the Week. Guess who's back? It's Sam Kerr, who not only gets our Women's Player of the Week award, but she also scores a brace either side of halftime in Chelsea's 5-0 win over Crystal Palace in the FA Cup. You're probably going to guess because we mentioned Ellie Carpenter, but we didn't mention Sam Kerr. Speaking of, Sam Kerr was replaced by Ellie Carpenter at the 60-minute mark in that one. So great to see Sam Kerr back fit and firing, and we hope that she continues that form into the Asian Cup in March. Now to our Men's Player of the Week, and it is none other than Sam Silvera, who not only produced a man-of-the-match performance for his side Middlesbrough in their 3-2 away win against West Bromwich Albion, he played a full game and picked up a goal and an assist, which is why he won the Player of the Week award. Silvera has 4 goal contributions in his last 3 matches in what has been a fantastic start to the year for him, and has no doubt put him squarely in Tony Popovic's sights for a Socceroos call-up. All right, well, that is it for another week of the Aussie Football Passport. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if you want me to add updates on our Aussie coaches abroad to the pod. I'll put a poll out on our social media pages and the website for you to answer, so make sure you do so. And I'll let you know if it's in or it's out in next week's episode. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.